From the underground to the world stage. One stage, countless voices. The conversation that shapes culture, politics, entertainment, and society. Politicians, comedians, musicians, actors, public servants, leaders, unfiltered, unscripted, unmissable. This is Debated Live.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Debated Live. My name is Jordan Kensington. We are live and direct. Today is the 24th of December, 2026. Welcome to the show. We have a special guest coming on the show today. I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to go straight to the introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Malins on the show. Malins, how are you? How you doing?
Wonderful. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you too. Welcome to the show, Malins. I was playing earlier on a clip that literally went viral. And this is a few years ago. I remember I was sat in the office in London and my team brought me this clip and said, you need to watch this. You need to watch this right now. And it said, this is you. This is what you've been saying for the past 30 years. I opened it and I watched it and I was literally flabbergasted. I played it to my mom, played it to my sister, played it to the whole entire family. I said, you need to watch this. This is special. First and foremost, before we even go to the clip, Malins, can you tell us a little bit, for people that don't know your background, to discovering you on the TED speech? Can you tell us a little bit about your background and you know where you come from in Sierra Leone, and obviously where you live now, and obviously what your career was prior to people discovering you on that side of things?
Okay, my name is Malens. I was born in Germany to a German mother and a Sierra Leonean father. My background is finance and economics, and I pursued my studies in that field, worked in publishing and philanthropy, social justice work for pretty much until this TED Talk happened. I started a creative project in Sierra Leone called the Forlorn Show Creative Collective with 21 street kids or youth that were homeless and orphaned, and we created amazing things from fashion to art to film, and that kind of made waves before social media, and that ultimately led to this TED Talk. However, I've been always invested in social justice. That's my calling, to instill balance on earth, wherever I see discrepancies. And Africa has been the breadbasket of the world. And I feel, up to that point, it wasn't clearly verbalized, it wasn't clearly articulated, it wasn't clearly perceived. Even I grew up with the notion that the West showers Africa in generous donations, meanwhile, it's quite the opposite.
That is true. That is true. And that's something that it's an uncomfortable truth, but it's actually the truth. And the truth is always uncomfortable. Africa has been a place where, we've invested a lot as a company myself. We have Republic Africa, we have colleges, universities. We've invested a lot in the past 30 years. And when you made that speech, it was kind of a wake-up call, because one of the discrepancies I saw, growing up for a long time was Africa being looked at as a charity, a charitable cause. And, the history was obviously, the word history is always not your history. The clues in the word, when someone says they're going to tell you your history, it's normally not your history, it's their history. And do you feel the problem with Africa today, not what I'm talking in the past, today, starts with education? Because if you don't know your history or your mystery, shall I say mystery as in your my story, if you don't know your my story, how do you succeed in a world where you have been programmed from when you were born to tell you your charity case?
I would say, because education is very subjective. What is education? Is it institutions that conform us, transform us, you know, inform us? I would say it's a matter of identity and embodying your identity more so than understanding it, because for as long as Africans have not been disconnected from their traditions, their lineage, their roots, their practices, and first and foremost their spiritual practices and their spirituality, their spirit, there was no question as to who we are. And the moment that happened, something, yeah, the intrinsic engine or heartbeat or connection to everything that's of the higher realms had been severed. And I would say today, if you want, we have more educated Africans than ever by the conventional definition of education. Yet the identity has been severed, undoubtedly, and so I wouldn't say it comes down to what we consider education. It comes down to what we consider practices. Because from our practices and our traditions, and our rituals, we embody identity.
So it's like the identity is in your DNA. But I guess what I was saying was, I'm not talking about traditional education. I was talking about more. We live in a world where you can't escape it. The programming in terms of the education or the educational system that's currently in place has been brought in by the West into Africa. So what you find is when you go to schools, they're not taught your languages. They're not taught the heroes that have passed through. They don't taught the people that have invented things. They don't taught the richest person in the continent was called Mansa Musa, and the richest person in the world was called Mansa Musa for Mali. They not thought the real name of Africa was Al-Qabilan. They not thought about Kush, Kemet. They not thought about what the resources they have. That's something you talked about very intensely in your speech, because I mean you made an example of, there are people mining at the back of their houses, but those same people that are mining in the back of the house are not even allowed to sell, and they probably don't even know the value of some of the stuff they have, because most of the countries that have diamonds and gold, they're not really obsessed with it as the West is. So they're not taught about the value that you see is very important to administer that their spiritual side was severed, which is very important. But moving on, because as we move on, we have to look at solutions. And one of the things is, if you're moving on with the same system, say for example, someone says to you, hey, do you know what? We have the youngest population growing in the continent, that literally in a few years' time, we are taking over. The thing is, what's the point of taking over with the same mentality that you've been indoctrinated with? Because you're going to be worse than the colonizer who indoctrinated you with that mentality. So is there, I look at a computer as, if you don't put the right program into a computer, it will have a virus. But now your computer, as you said, came with the right program in the first place. That was your DNA, that was your spiritual book. But if that's been severed, and it's been replaced for centuries with the wrong programs that have led to loads of viruses, is it a point where we need to destroy the old program, and the ones in the know, or it's a new program that needs to be recreated, so that the young people are growing up with a completely different mentality?
I would say it's twofold, because I agree with everything you say, but I believe we need to differentiate between education, because ultimately what we consider education led to this kind of programming. And I've met people who have not been conventionally built upon that program, and pretty much run two operating systems on the same hard drive. But I feel what really set Africans back is being severed from their spirituality, in my opinion.
No, I love that. I love that. Now, why do you think today in 2025, seen as there's been a lot of growth? I was speaking to Vusi. I told you, say you're good friends with Vusi as well a few weeks ago, and he was talking about Africa has got a PR problem, right? And I want to know your take on that as well, because his take was, we just have to aggressively go out there. I mean, this is another compactment, the box of it. We have to go out there and actually change the PR that Africa has got. What is your take on what Vusi said? I mean, his title was Africa has a PR problem. What's your take on that?
Yeah, but the problem is not our PR. The problem is the negative propaganda the world's PR machine is propagating, right? So that's our
Mm,
problem, because
mm,
melanin is the architect of culture globally. There is no such thing as culture in the absence of melanin. There's
mm,
been renditions of culture in the absence of melanin. There have been iterations of culture by non-melanated people, but melanin is the architect of culture. And because it's the architect of culture, and culture is a frequency that's contagious, it spreads with or without PR, right? Look at America, who is the architect of culture, right? Ultimately, who is the architect of culture globally? You can go wherever you want and drop Bob Marley and Michael Jackson in a jungle, be that in the
mm,
midst of Kerala or somewhere in the Sahara, and people will know who these people are, right? Not just because of PR, but because of the spiritual current that is projected through these cultural architects. That's why I believe it is the of utmost urgency for Africans to get in touch with their spirituality.
And how
Because
can how do you? Sorry, did you want to say something?
Yeah, because I feel these things do not come down to education. You know,
Mm,
these people that are the utmost ambassador or carriers of that currency of culture or that current of culture, they're not necessarily the most educated. They're not necessarily,
mm,
but they're embodying the largest spiritual capacity. Vusi being one of these people, right? He's very
mm,
educated, but he carries spirit. So I believe
mm,
that is why he has that magnitude and that resonance.
mm,
And so, yeah, for Africans to get in touch with their spirituality, that's like overriding the code. That's the elimination of the virus. The virus ultimately has been indoctrination through religion, because the rest is transient. You know, when we
mm,
see at when we look at African Americans, the most disconnected and disenfranchised from their actual history or her story, yet
mm.
great um architects of culture.
Mm. No, definitely. So, what would you say is a key way? Say a young person is watching it right now. We have actually a young African coming soon on the show who's he calls himself Mr. President, and I love him. He's all over social media. He's 12 years old, Emmanuel. He goes all across the world at 12, really talking about Pan-Africanism, Africa. I mean, he's going to be coming later on the show. I hope you watch him. He's in Seychelles now. Extremely, very, very inspiring. So young people watching now, when they hear how to reconnect to your spirituality, what would you say is the key way to reconnect with your spirituality?
I would say everything in life, in this infinite current of life, returns to the origin, right? And I highly urge Africans, melanated people, to come back to the origin in their worship of self. I think it all starts with self, and identity starts with honoring and reverence of self. And that cannot happen for as long as Africans pray to constructs, European constructs or Arab constructs.
Mm,
You know, these are beautiful systems in their own right, but they're renditions of our blueprints. You know, when we go back to ancient Kemet, aka Egypt, we have blueprints that supersede everything, and that Europeans took renditions of, and created a programming that incapacitated Africans in their entire capacity. So while Africans, because Africans operate from spirit, right? So that's a given. They operate from spirit. So we can't undermine that. You can be extremely educated, but once you switch that button off, there's only that far that you will go. However, when that button is switched on, education will be overridden. But Marley had no education, right? He probably did. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure if he went to high school. I'm not sure about Michael Jackson if he went to high school. So these are just examples, and I'm not against education. I've gone through it to recognize life as the school, you know, but I've been educated, you know, so I'm not against it, but more so to learn social code, I would say.
No, I definitely agree with you. I'm sort of, I'm not completely against, but I am half against, conventional education. I think I always have this saying, when I had, we had a debate issue, we had this live debate once, and, we had scholars from Oxford University talk about, education, the importance of education, et cetera, et cetera. And the comment I made there was that, I'm going to prove to you that education is not a system that was an African system. It's based on cause and effect. And I said, now tell me the noble jobs that come out of education. They said, all right, what about becoming a lawyer? So I said, well, if you don't have a problem, if someone doesn't have a divorce, then you don't have a lawyer. If you don't have a problem, there is no lawyer. What about being a doctor? Well, if you don't give me food that makes me ill, then I don't need to see a doctor. And what about a police officer? Well, if we live in a society that people love each other and not committing crimes, you don't have and you can literally list and just keep going and keep going.
Yes,
and
I love that perspective.
The whole system is created on cause and effect. And I said, as you just said, we are spiritual beings having a physical existence. And at some point, we lose this physical body, and we have to now face to face with our soul. And the issue is, it's so important that if you don't have a relationship with your soul whilst you are in the physical body, you are living in limbo, because when you're out of your body, because it's gonna happen every night you sleep. I just said the story of Cinderella is your spirit literally leaving your body. So if you don't know what's happening, you get up in the morning and you just think it's a dream, which is a word that just kind of makes you not investigate. And you never understand what happens with your soul. When it actually happens where you go to the next dimension, you'll be confused, you'll be lost, you'll be living in limbo because you haven't got a relationship. So it's so important to invest in getting that connection back, that spiritual connection back, understanding the soul back, because that's where the real, power comes from. It's not by the physical energy, that's the real power comes from,
And the education, to me, that is education. And when we look at the ancients in Egypt, it's so well laid out, right? What you were, I love the perspective that you just shared, because that's a beautiful way to look at things. And I would say when we look at the laws of Ma'at, upon which everything is based, like the 10 Commandments and so forth, it all has been like reducted out of that, then these are foundations of society, and if we educate ourselves based on what came from us, I believe we would supersede and exceed everything that is present on earth right now.
I completely agree with that. And do you feel that the race for Africa to embrace technology is, a new kind of neocolonialism, which is basically going to also hinder that connection? Because I was having an interview 3 days ago with someone about, AI and ChatGPT. I said, the clue is always in the word. When you hear artificial intelligence, it's already telling you. I mean, the good thing you got to give credit to the West, is that they just don't lie when they tell you exactly what they're going to do. They literally, they tell you that this is going to be artificial intelligence. You got to love being artificial. And you're like, yeah, of course, give it to me. Give it to me. Let's do it. Do you think, young people watching or people watching across the continent should, I spoke to Buzi about this as well. I said, should you approach AI and all these artificial intelligence, all this new technology would care, or should they just go full steam ahead? Because there seems to be a huge investment into the continent for AI and new technology. And when you're talking about spirituality, what you find is the biggest disconnect in the 21st century for a lot of people who have been reconnecting to spirituality is that absence of time to reconnect and time to reconnect to small things that are natural to you. For example, writing, right? Is the art of just writing. You speak to a lot of people and say, when did you write a whole full 5-page letter? And they're like, yo, it's a long time. I type, I've got phones, I've got, and then you say, well, there's a spiritual thing about writing and where the memory comes from, that when you type in a computer, you lose it. And I say, your memory, I remember back in the day, I'm an 80s kid, and back in the day, someone will give you your number and you're like, it's in your head. I had phone numbers in the head. I had things in it. That's your memory. Your memory bank was completely active. Today, I mean, I can Google it, I can chat GPT it, I can, search. So slowly, I'm not using those natural elements, and I can use, there's so many other things that you can use. And we can even go all the way back to the word telephone coming from telepathy. I remember a comedian making a joke that back in the day, your grandmother and your grandfather will be in a village and you'll be in a town, and they will literally call you by your brain, and they will say, so and so is coming on Wednesday. Please make sure you cook the food and you prepare either. And then you will come on that time, and you'll be asking them, how did you know I was coming? It was just normal, because telepathy was normal then. It wasn't an abnormality. Those are the things that we've forgotten. And they put telephone in front of telepathy. And sometimes you get a brief of that telepathy come up, and you say, hey, I was just thinking of you and you called me. You just called me now. And the person will be like, no, that didn't happen. You weren't thinking about it. You're lying. You're like, I guarantee you. And that's telepathy, which we don't practice anymore. So it's lost. So my question is the introduction and the pushing of AI and technology, artificial intelligence into the continent, something that is good for civilization or good for getting it better, or is another thing that hinders us, especially those who are on the path to spiritual discovery or rediscovery?
I would say that we can use artificial intelligence to amplify ancestral intelligence, because artificial intelligence gives Africans, for the first time in, I would say, I don't know how many centuries now, the opportunity to tell their own stories visually. And we ingest with the eye first, right? Before we taste something, we see it. Before we smell something, we may, smell may precede vision. But vision is like, you can't unsee what you've seen, right? It is like that. You can't unsee it. So this is like an unsolicited programming that happens visually, right? So us having the ability to correct all the misinformation that has been issued, by the West, from claiming, like African history as their own, especially when it comes to Egypt, because they always want to create proximity to greatness through lies, through things that are far from the truth. And for Africans now to tell their stories visually means, especially on a continent like Africa, where in many countries we have illiteracy rates of 60-70% in Sierra Leone. I don't know about Nigeria or other places. So audiovisual information, a great majority of the population relies on audiovisual information. So maybe not so much the younger generation, but the younger generation are able to use AI to tell the stories, to really tell our ancestral stories. And I think this will literally reprogram the world, because these stories haven't been told yet, right? Our ancestors.
Mm.
Africa is full of wealth of mythology,
A lot. Yeah.
amazing stories for days, yeah, till the turn
Yeah.
of the century, and we haven't told them all, right? So I believe Africa, India, like places of rich culture, these stories will be
Mm.
told, because I mean, what are we going to tell about Europe? You know, genocide,
Mm.
genocide, war, 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 war. We're done with that, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's that time, and I see on social media these phenomenal visuals, and that's when you know, okay, the spirit is alive. The
Sounds good. Yeah.
phenomenal visuals that they're
Mm.
like, now they can make it seen, you know, what is on the mind. They can
Mm.
bring it to life and put it out
Mm.
there, and that will reprogram the world ultimately, you know, because I feel it's a technological war. I wouldn't say I'm a fan. I'm a fan, and I'm also not a fan of AI, because it's no there's no thing that's powerful that's just good or just bad, right?
Mm.
So I would say the origin, I question the origin. I question
Mm.
what it is, where it comes from, you know, I question all of
Mm.
that, but how it's being used by Africans, I think it's phenomenal.
Okay. No, no, I get you. Telling stories is what you just said. And the story of Africa, when you explained it, you explained the bit that was very important, which was that Africa was blessed with wealth and resources to an audience of, I think that was in Germany, or it
Yeah.
was a Western audience. I'm born in London, and I've done business in London all my life. And what I find is, you know, do we keep telling them, the people who don't want to listen, the stories, or do we now start telling ourselves the stories to empower ourselves, or is it both? Because if you sit in a room with people who are, you know, colonizing, earning from you, and gaining generational wealth from you, and you tell them, hey, you know what, you shouldn't be doing this because we are rich. We are the ones that I mean, in their heads they'll be like, well, tell me something we don't know. Why do you think we're there? Why do you think we went there in the first place? Why do you think we discovered we said we discovered gold or discovered diamonds? The whole point of us being there is that we wanted to hide this story, and you telling us something we already know doesn't help us change. So is the solution telling them, or is it good to make sure they know, and then empower your people? What is the balance? Because I always say, if I'm on the street and I see a someone who's very spiritual, someone who's on point arguing with a fool, um, I won't know who the fool is, because it will look like both people are the fools. And it's until you come close and the person explains to you, look, the reason I'm here is because this guy did this, or this person did this and that. And you're like, no way, they stole this from you. But I would never have known if I'm just driving a car and just passing, seeing both of them arguing together.
I would say at the current level of programming we're at, or I mean, let's go back to the time of the TED Talk. That was 10 years ago, but I feel we're just coming out of this tail end of
Hmm.
the psyop, the dream spell, right? Everything is coming
Hmm.
to light, everything. So
Hmm.
from that vantage point, it's very important that a white male voice delivers the 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 status quo. Yeah, because everybody is programmed to listen to whiteness. Everybody is programmed to praise whiteness, the white God, the white Jesus, the white this, I mean, okay, Muslims don't really have an image, so to speak, but Africans, Christianity, whiteness is the authority, and the male is the authority, right? Globally, regardless of culture. So it is important for the white male voice to deliver, to be the messenger. Yeah. And then for everybody to fall in line. So even when you pay attention to the AI videos that correct some misconceptions and misinformation, they put a male white voice there, even though it's probably an African that generated is just so that
Right.
even Africans, oh, That's okay. Because the Africans are also brainwashed, they have assumed the role of, oh, I'm inferior, the white man is superior, white Jesus is what I pray to, and the reason not even being known to them, but they believe that, right? The white is pure, white is the indoctrination has, like, literally the virus has taken over the system. So I feel it's very important to shift the paradigm and the mindset within European minds. I think it's very important, and it's happening.
No, I agree with you, and I also sit on the fence on both sides. The part where I sit on the fence, and I'll tell you the part where I sit on the fence and say where I agree. The part where I sit on the fence on is that we do have to take out the virus of an inferiority complex of always thinking the West is superior, especially in Africa, and that indoctrination has to be taken off immediately. And I think sending a white person to be the leader of that message also amplifies amplifies that indoctrination, because it just reiterates the whole thing where we still need this person to come and do something, and that need factor has to be taken out. It's kind of like sending a thief to go back to where they stole, to tell the people that, hey, you know what, it was yours in the first place, right? And the people will be like, oh, for real? Like, yeah, no, it was this. You see all this stuff that we've been just like flossing on you guys. It was yours in the first place. No, yeah, it was. And it's just like, what's the thief doing telling me that it was mine in the first place? But then on the flip side, where I agree with you, I want you to see both sides and see where we can be in the middle. Where I agree with you is that when a thief does steal from somebody, right, or someone does commit, and they kind of change their ways, which I don't know if they're going to change their ways, and they come back and they're like, look, I've changed my ways now. I did steal from you. This is all yours. I'm bringing it back. Is that ever going to happen with this scenario? I don't think so, right? Will they bring back what they stole? I don't think so. I think we will have to, which Africa is doing, Africa is doing, we'll have to kind of ignore. And, the example here is China, for example. 40 years ago, when I knew about China, all we used to watch was karate films, kung fu films, and we sat there, we'd be like, oh, Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan, and that's all I knew about China. And if something came in, like someone gave you something on China, or slippers or whatever from China, made in China, no, bad quality, it's going to be bad quality. Today, China just locked themselves. I'm not talking about all the other atrocities that China, I'm just talking about in terms of what story they told the world. They just stopped listening to the West, and they also put laws in place to say nobody's allowed to connect to the West, Western social media, Western media. We are going to lock in and just make sure we create. And when they came out after that lock-in, China wasn't karate kung fu no more. China, nobody sat here thinking, oh, did you watch that Chinese film? China is in control, So that's the two things I'm looking at. Is it a good thing for the colonizer to then bring back the message of change, or does Africa now, because we are in such a prime position, because the West are fighting each other, America is confused, Europe is confused, UK, we don't know where we're coming or going. I mean, it's the whole of Europe is just like, it's a mess. West is in a mess. Asia, China, on the other, they're enjoying places like South Africa, Nigeria, Cameroon. There's a lot of things happening. Yeah, it's not all good. I mean, there are still those leaders that are umbilical cord connected to the West, but there is a young generation that's creating change. Do they need to still get their umbilical cord still connected to the West, or should they just China things down?
I agree with you. There is a young generation advocating for change, but that young generation has always existed, right? They have always been phenomenal leaders. They have always existed. We tend to forget that. Even sometimes I have conversations with Black people, people of African origin, and they tend to forget that we always had phenomenal leaders, right? Assassination is like as if there's a subscription, yeah, an unsolicited
Mm,
subscription to an assassination program. And that's
mm,
still ongoing, and it becomes increasingly difficult because information now travels in real time. People peep it before it has been executed. But
mm,
I feel that the leaders we currently have in place, except for a few, they're programmed too. And they suffer from an inferiority complex because you see it the
mm.
moment they stand in a room with a white leader. The
Yeah,
body,
yeah,
the the body language changes. Yeah, I mean, Ibrahim Traore,
I
this one
was
is
about to mention
excluded,
it. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Excluded,
yeah,
but
yeah,
pretty much everybody
yeah,
else, is like they start crouching, like stand up, boy,
yeah,
straight.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
so I feel it is a two-way system. I'm not saying these things are mutually exclusive, but in the
Mm,
West, there is also a conscious awakening happening because once you realize a few things, you can't unknow it. You can pretend, but you can't
mm,
unknow it. And there is more and more European leaders. You listen to EU, you listen to the European like spokespeople in parliament. People are speaking up, and they're literally sharing the same message. I'm not saying it's the
mm,
majority yet, but it's happening, and I believe the changes are happening way too slow, but
mm,
they need to happen on both sides. I mean, a lot of
mm,
Africans are
mm,
very bamboozled, very brainwashed, very
mm,
much still, you know, have a lot of healing to do that may take a few generations.
mm. The good news about that is that the young generation is that's why I always say the young people are the future in all ways than one, because what you don't know won't hurt you, right? And what you don't know gives a chance for us, the older generation, to
Mhm.
install a new program in them to change. You mentioned Ibrahim Traore there. I mean, we put Ibrahim. If you look at the back, that's Republic Africa. We put Ibrahim Traore on the front cover. We did an exclusive interview with him. Went and covered the whole, his regime
Mhm.
there, Burkina Faso, and um, to say I'm impressed is to say the list. What I found, I speak French, so I was able to kind of like have a conversation. What I found was someone who, when you say that's the spirit is there, right? It's like this is not an educational front. This is like the spirit is there. The lack of fear is clear.
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
focus is on point. Um, when you look at that, Ibrahim Traore, and you look at Burkina Faso, I was so amazed by Burkina Faso because the change, what's happened there is, I mean, I don't think that it's being reported as much as possible. We are planning in 2026 to go back and do a huge documentary on just the changes he's done, like hospitals built, free accommodation, the people taking to themselves going and doing work on the streets, unpaid
I
work,
know.
because they want to fix the country. The passion the people have of the country. You're speaking to people who is the only country, people are just happy. It
Yeah.
feels like something has been lifted. And you saw, and we all witnessed in real time a few months ago, I think it was this year or last year, where as soon as Ibrahim was doing all these massive changes, all this amazing stuff, the Americans sent someone that looked like us, a colonel that looked like us, to then start the PR machine. Because the PR machine
Yep.
is always very like, oh, these people, we're not really sure what they're doing with the money. It's always the thief accusing the person who's not stealing, and it all started. And the premise of that was what you just said. We've always had great leaders, and you know what's happened to the leaders. And I guess the fear that you see with leaders when they are sat amongst these people is two parts. I don't want to say if you're sat next to a devil, you'll be scared. But what I'm saying is they know the history of what these people have done. You shouldn't fear the power of someone who hasn't got power. However, some of these people have been put in power. 90% of African leaders, unfortunately, have been put in power by the West.
Yeah.
And they have been indoctrinated. They're basically pure coconuts. They've been indoctrinated to a system whereby they answer to their fathers in the West, shall I say.
Yeah.
So do you think Africa needs more Ibrahim Traorés? Or
Hell yeah. Heaven, yeah. Of course.
because more Ibrahim Traorés means you saw
It
his
means
path to
game
taking
over.
over.
Yeah.
Right.
More Ibrahim
And
Traoré
that
means
comes
game over.
and that comes from the young people.
Well, let's see. Because I mean now they're starting the what you call it, the PR machine in Nigeria, you know. Now suddenly it's the
Yes.
Christians in Nigeria that need to be put in check. So I believe the general or conventional modus operandi, that avenue didn't work because they tried that on Ibrahim
They
Traore.
did.
And that's where we
Yeah.
know spirit is superseding, right? His spirit, the
True.
spirit of those who couldn't be compromised. That's all a matter of spirit, has nothing to do with education. And I don't know how educated he is. Maybe educated
No.
enough, but right? So it's
Spiritually
like,
educated.
okay, so you know
Mm.
this, he is literally standing or upheld by the spirit of Sankara. You feel that, you know, he's walking in that, the land of the upright. He's walking upright when he comes walks into whatever the Kremlin or whatever in Russia, upright. The man is not, you know, he knows who he is. And that I feel is spiritual
Yes.
constituency, whether it's Putin in front of him or whatever the other invitations, he's not even bothered. He's not even entertaining nonsense, you know? So that is something I admire and I'd love to see. And I mean, people like that are rare, but they exist. And he also sets the standard, you know. Now other leaders feel like, because that man is a social media phenomena on here, or people make songs about him and this and that. So all these other lame leaders, you know, we have in the other countries, at least their ego gets triggered, at the very least, a little bit, you know, because they're also driven by
100%.
fame and they're not driven by the uncompromised spirit, but their ego gets triggered, and often that at least tilts the scales a little bit into the right direction. So let's see. I believe it becomes increasingly difficult because the West is counting their years, their decades. It's their last decades. The system is crumbling.
Definitely.
Yeah.
No, 100% I
Babylon is
agree. And
crumbling.
no, I completely agree. One thing he was talking about was the diaspora support. I liken this to an example of, I'm sure, I don't know whether you guys have that in Germany, but in the UK, we have, in London, for example, we have Chinatown. In New York, there's a Chinatown. And when you go to Chinatown, you find the Chinese supporting each other outside of China as a community. They literally, when they say it's Chinatown. Like you can't go into Chinatown and start creating laws in Chinatown. Like I don't care where you're from. That is Chinatown. And what us as a diaspora, the united we stand, divided we get conquered, is so important at this time, because you mentioned the reason why Ibrahim, that PR thing didn't work, was that everyone on social media was like, we know what you're doing. This is not going to work. We all up in arms in it. And if we, the diaspora, are more united, there's something you mentioned, ego. I think part of connecting to your spirit and your soul is killing of the ego. I think the ego, that self, You know, like, you know, you can value your spirit, your soul, but valuing yourself, whereby we have a lens that we see each other, and undervalue each other and overvalue others, creates that division. And that division also comes into play in business. I know you have your own businesses and organizations and charities that you run as well. And when I speak to a lot of entrepreneurs, we have Aliko Dangote, who a good friend of mine speak to a lot, and he mentions even him as the richest billionaire in the continent. His issue is travel. You were not united. For him as
Even
the richest person,
internally, even
well, yeah,
internally with his own
of course.
government. I mean, you
What
know,
I'm
it's
talking
like,
about I mean, as the richest person in Africa, for him to travel across Africa is a problem. And for he needs to, and the European, someone is a carpenter could sit in London and go, "Do you know what? I want to go to Rwanda tomorrow, mate. Yeah, you can go. And you with your British passport. But Dangote has to go to the embassy and apply for a visa, tell them what he's going there to do, as the person who is flying the flag for business in the continent.
mhm.
Is that not the things that keep us divided? Because if we can't even trade with each other, we can't even, you know, spread tourism with each other, we can't even unite together. So someone from Nigeria going to Tanzania and unite with the Tanzanians, and Tanzania to South Africa, if we Sierra Leone, if we can't travel freely in the continent, is that not the sort of things that lead to a divided mentality?
I would say, I mean, we have we have ECOWAS, so there, you know, travel is easy. Now we
Hmm.
have another AU passport that just came out or is coming out or being tried.
It's coming out. Just the
So I,
diplomats have got that now.
yeah, so I feel, yes, I agree with you. It's a hindrance, but
Hmm.
if I now want to go to Russia with a German passport, I also need to, you know, apply for a visa or so forth, even though we share kind of the same landmass and Africa is way bigger
Hmm.
in width than, you know, the entire Europe all the way stretching
Hmm.
the whole stretch of Russia. So I feel that is not, that is an issue, but I feel a way more prominent issue is internally. He built
Hmm.
the he built a refinery, meaning
Yeah.
we, they, Nigeria could export refined oil. The government, and I mean, he's buying the oil from neighboring countries. That just shows the ludicrousy internally,
Hmm.
right? And how the government is, instead of, hey, wow, you know, there is like, so this is what I feel is a way bigger issue. Corruption exists everywhere. It is an issue everywhere. But it is an issue for us too. And I feel what you mentioned with Chinatown, you're absolutely correct. We have it, but the Chinese, they're excellent at warfare because strategy and warfare, strategy, I would say, is the positive aspect of the spectrum. Warfare
Hmm.
is the negative aspect of the spectrum. Chinese, they have, and that's what I mean when traditions and lineages have been severed and interrupted. They maintained that. Yeah, everything is very strategic. They have their own mafia in New York, you
Hmm.
know, same as the Italians. This is very strategic. They have
Yeah.
their own mafia. As you said, you go to Chinatown, it's different kind of rules, you know, that
Hmm.
supersede everything. And as Africans, we don't have that. Nigerians, you're Nigerian, right? No?
Yeah, half. Yeah,
Okay.
half. My mom's from
Nigerians
Cameroon.
are the
Yeah.
only
Mm.
ones, there's a warrior
Mm.
culture, especially the
Mm.
Yoruba, and they maintain
Mm.
that. That's why they
Mm.
have gangsters. That's why they have mafia. Wherever they go, they can
Mm.
organize and this and that, and then they run and take over, right?
Mm.
In in brilliance and in criminal ways, because both
Mm.
requires intelligence, right, in a system.
Mm. Mm.
So Nigerians have that because I feel that warrior aspect, that tradition, their culture is, it's still there. It's prevalent,
Mm.
right? And others just don't have that, and that's why they're not organized. But you go wherever you go, you find Nigerians. They're organized. They have their little, you know, cartels. So they live
Their
in
community.
yeah, their little mafia, their little whatever it is. They have that, you know.
Mm. Right. No, definitely. That's because business is, we talked about the spiritual side of things, but economically as well. We have to eat. People have to eat. Um, and we find out farming and agriculture is a huge, huge base for the world. Africa has basically been feeding the world for ages, and that's been kind of now also being targeted, as if we're not having a lot being targeted, as if the resources and the gold and diamonds, but agriculture is being targeted. But agriculture is not just being targeted in a way that was done 50 years ago. 50 years ago, it was just, and it's still being done. It's just getting as much food, as much raw ingredients, as much. We all know that. But the target now is different. When you speak to farmers, they're talking about the seeds themselves
Yeah.
are now
Yeah.
being programmed in the West. You've got like Bill Gates investing in all these companies that are programming, let's say allegedly, so no one gets sued here. They're programming seeds,
No,
allegedly
but that's
programming seeds.
known. That's not
Well, I mean, it's known.
allegedly.
It's I mean, this is known. They're
Monsanto
programming.
creates genetically modified seeds that only operate for several seasons, and a certain pesticide and fertilizer needs to be used in combination with it. Yeah, so that's not a hypothesis.
No, I mean this is destroying farming in the continent,
Yeah.
because some of the seeds that are being planted are not just created to be destroyed, but they also lack the nutrients that the original. I mean, anything that's unnatural, we've just established that will not give you the nutrients that you're meant to have in the first place. Because the West is trying to go into all this unnatural meat and a natural food and natural grapes and not natural fruits. They're bringing that into Africa, and you're finding it's leading to a lot of people finding themselves with sicknesses and diseases that they previously didn't have. What do you think about this part of, let's say, Bill Gates' I don't want to use the word. I mean, if you're using the word passion is a different word. I'm using obsession is the best word. Bill Gates' obsession with the continent of Africa. He claims to be going in there with a philanthropic hat, but those that can see it clearly for what it is. What do you think of that?
I mean, when we talk about spirit, I like to bring it back to spirit, because we're entering 2026. We're entering a new era. Consciousness is on the rise. People have woken up, right? We're having conversations nowadays, like 10 years ago. People thought you would have lost your mind. Yeah. I mean, now 100%. It's all over the news. Epstein files, everybody is a pedophile. Children are being sacrificed, abused, and for spiritual reasons, yeah, and perverted reasons alike.
True.
So we have to understand the underbelly of the beast is coming to the surface, right? So Bill Gates is an embodiment of that. I don't like to use these biblical terms because they're so loaded, but everything that is dark, everything that is, well, okay, for lack
demonic.
of better, just
demonic.
demonic. Thank you. Demonic. Yes, perfect. That's the perfect term for it. And even that is not correct, because demon, when we go to the Greek, means spirit, but what we consider satanic. So they are being exposed. So now we know. Some of us knew. Now the rest is catching up. That will not go away. More is coming out. So we're in an era of alchemy. Yeah, we call it the in the Bible, even though I don't want to use these references because they have all been mixed match and whatever, but we have the book of Revelation. I call it the time of the great reveal, right? We're in the chapter on the timeline of humanity, of these past millennia, in the chapter of the great reveal. Everything is coming to light. We need to ingest it, we need to absorb it, we need to alchemize it, and in order to facilitate and hold space for transmutation and transformation. So that is presently what's happening, and it requires a great deal of our energy, because when this falls, something else can rise. Yeah, I believe part of gardening is weeding. It's very important. Sometimes you plant seeds and then you forget about them, and in the meantime, you're just busy weeding, taking out the weeds. That's the majority of gardening. We often forget that. It's not like, oh, I'm reaping fruits and whatever. The fruits will come, but we're weeding all this nonsense out. The pest, the virus, all these people are embodiment of the virus, of what is sick with this planet, the sickness of the earth. Bill Gates is the virus, right? I mean, it's by it's not by chance that he's the one spreading it, because he is the virus. You know, he is the virus. He embodies the virus.
It's funny you say that. His company Microsoft, you know, it showed how viruses work in computers. So so it's not different to doing that in real time. I like the fact that you said, you know, weeding out. I think that's important. I'm in terms of that, actually, like us, you know, people who are waking up. I won't consider myself as someone who's waking up, because I've been this way. You know, I come from a family that we're all this way. We're all like, literally, we were clued up from day one. So there was no way. Like, literally, if you speak to my mom, she'll be like, "What are you talking about? This is what we do. We were like this on day one." But I'm speaking for, you know, most of the world that's waking up to a lot of this stuff, and it's shocking to them, because when you've been indoctrinated for too long, it's shocking to them. What is the actionable things that we can all do? Because you mentioned, as we're going to 2026, you know, it's not by mistake that we're having this conversation. I always think, you know, if you're a spiritual person, you know that life is very funny. Like, everything happens at when it needs to happen, and no matter what challenges that come into play, you know, if it's technical or anything, that it flows. Life flows when you're spiritual and you know what is meant to happen. It just goes, right? And nobody can stop that from prospering. So those kind of, you know, information is very important, because, you know, information goes through people. And, you know, like, one of the things that you did with the TED Talk is, without knowing it, you opened a lot of people that don't even know who you are, know what your name is, up to today. And when they're having conversations in their little groups, they'll be saying, "Oh, did you watch that? There was this lady on TED Talks. What she said." From that day, my mind was blown. And I'm talking black and white, right? This happened worldwide. This literally happened. When you're going to 2026, what are the actionable things that people can do to ensure that, first of all, the continent becomes what it should have been, a better place full of love, a place full of enrichment, wealth, and peace and happiness. And also, the world becomes much more of a better place, because part of you know, living in a spiritual frequency is understanding that there should really be no fear. Fear is false evidence appearing real. There shouldn't be that exists in the frequency. Once fear exists in the frequency is broken. And what we're talking about is years of fear and years of our nervous systems being broken into submission. Once that disappears, you're in a frequency of love, and there's nothing someone can come to you and say. I mean, I had it during the COVID era. I literally, in my head, I told my wife and the whole family that let's just, this is how we're going to operate. COVID doesn't exist. I said it doesn't exist. And, you know, by the most highest frequency, I ended up in Mauritius for 2 years, because I was going there for a week. And when I landed in the country, they said to us the whole world had gone on lockdown. And that's why I stayed there for 2 years. But Mauritius became
with your family.
With a family. My wife was pregnant at the point, so my son got born in Mauritius. But Mauritius became the only place in the world that was literally didn't have COVID. They had to pretend that they had COVID in the end because it was the last place and everyone was putting pressure on them. You need to say you have COVID. It's 1 million people. No, everybody was just doing, people were on the beach drinking cocktails. Like there was
Same
nothing
here. Same in
for years,
Indonesia. Yeah.
2 years. So, but in my mind, as soon as I heard the thing COVID, I just decided to leave in my mind and say this does not exist. And up till now, I still in my mind, but and you know, respect to anyone that had it. I'm not talking about your experience. I'm talking my experience. I feel there's a frequency in not agreeing spiritually to something that's been sold to you because that spiritual contract does matter too. And those are the things that I think moving into 2026 people need to learn. They don't understand the generational contracts their parents and forefathers have signed, which is spiritually chasing them today. I don't understand the spiritual contracts that exist today when someone tells you something and you just accept it and you move into it and then it comes to you because what you believe you become. So as we move into 2026, what are the actual tools that we can use to actually ensure that we are strong? I think Malins is going to come in a minute there. But we just lost Malins there, but we were talking about the importance of building spiritually. She's going to come back in a minute and we'll continue that chat. The importance of building spiritually. So what are the key elements as we move into 2026 that you would advise that people should be training their minds, should be doing to ensure that things change?
I believe we live in a matrix, in a psyop, right? So it starts here. Everybody can change this. And everybody can tell stories and project the stories onto the grand screen that are of what we wish to see. And people are already doing that. I see amazing stories being told, through AI, through the tools that are now available to us. What is also equally important is to alchemize darkness, and we're doing that because we're all conduits of this collective energy, right? We're all doing this by holding space, by witnessing the information, as ugly and as dark as it is, but by doing so, we're being witnessed. And as we're witnessing these people that are presently on the top of the pyramid, be it a Bill Gates, be it a Trump, be it literally everybody, is being implicated presently. We've all waited for this moment to be witnessed because we've known forever. I mean, you said, okay, you've been like that. So you've known, what's been going on in politics and the kind of darkness, and we have it everywhere. It's not exclusive to the US or the West. We have that in
100%.
Africa too. We have very dark rituals that are going on before elections and so forth. Maybe it's a bit more in the open than it is in the West, but it's coming out now, So the grand majority rejects that profoundly, and when there's a common adversary, it creates union. We've seen that with Palestine, right? It created so much union around the world. Suddenly everybody was taking the streets together. I mean, we've never seen people become so fond of Islam, despite the propaganda, Islamophobia, and this and that. Suddenly everybody was like, this is horrific. We're against this for this, right? So now that we have the next abomination coming to light, people have a common cause. There's nothing as strong that creates unity when there's something people have.
Completely agree. Completely agree there. I think Malins is having a problem with connection there. Don't forget, guys, you are tuned in to the Debated Live show. We have a special guest coming straight after Malins as well. You got Amanda Butter coming in straight after. And you've been hearing Malins there live. We've been talking about everything to do with Africa's growth, what's happening in Africa, all the amazing things that Africa is doing. And we just feel like it's time. It's time. There's going to be an amazing resurgence in the continent, and that's something that all of us should be proud of. So while we wait for, I think Malins will join us during the later part of the show. I'm going to introduce our next guest on the show. I'm going to introduce our next guest. And our next guest is someone, we always get people that go viral here. And viral to me is somebody that kind of does something or say something that, gets you thinking. And we also want to share with the audience so they can learn from as well and learn where their mind is. The thing with content on social media is there's a lot of content that people can learn from. So don't forget, after Malins, we will have Amanda coming to share her points of views as well. Oh yeah, well, we've got Malins is back. Malins is back. So Malins, you were talking about the shift of consciousness and that there will be a union with a lot of people because the cards have started falling. Everyone can see it in real time. The Epstein files, all the stuff that's happening across the world, Palestine, everyone is seeing in real time. And you can't argue with your eyes now because the reveal is happening. The veil has been taken out. So that union at that time has begun. You have a few businesses and charities and stuff that you do yourself. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do? I saw you were giving a friend of yours Afua is an oil that you do, a natural skincare oil. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the stuff that you do?
Yes, so basically I run various businesses. One of my core business is holistic body care products, through which I also empower communities. One is a black soap we make in remote parts of Sierra Leone, and it's infused with gold plasma made from gold that I mine ethically. Then Afua also, I gifted her the famous Secret Ceres. It's a 2,000-year-old recipe. It can be used in different ways. You can ingest it, you can apply it externally, but women can insert it into their wombs, into their vaginas, and it has healed thousands and thousands of wombs from very common issues that a lot of women, or more than 60% of women, actually suffer from, such as fibroids, human papillomavirus, bacterial vaginosis, and so forth. That's what I've been doing for decades, for 20 years or so. I run a ethical mining operation in Sierra Leone. Now we're expanding to other countries. For me, the common denominator is the womb of the woman, the womb of the earth, how we approach it, and to reap instead of rape the earth, because the way we are mining is horrific. We impact the earth generationally, we impact the communities generationally, and the most precious minerals are mined by the poorest people. That's a given globally, and I would like to change this in my lifetime. And that's the mission I am on with the venture. It's called Ethical Minerals, ethicalminerals.com for all these people that are interested.
Ethicalminerals.com. I love that.
Yes.
I love that.
Basically empowering communities, mining ethically without chemicals, closing the holes, turning former mines into farms, and it's a whole circular economy.
I love that. I'm going to check that out, ethicalminerals.com. And now, two questions for me on the show. This is a debated show, so in all our shows, we have the magic red box, and that's the magic red box here. And then you can see it. We pick a random card from the box, all right? And this, as you can see, it's not something that we will know what the card is. Let me jump that in. So a random card from the box, and we talk about what the cards say. So this card on debated is. And after this, we'll ask you what your hot take is. This card is social media's impact on mental health, love affair, or disaster waiting to happen. Social media's impact on mental health, love affair, or disaster waiting to happen? Your take.
Both. I believe this too is a double-edged sword. It's not healthy to be in front of a screen and as a result disconnected physically from humans, life, nature. But I also believe that people have been living isolated for decades, and social media allows like-minded people that are probably outliers within their community to connect to bigger community of people that actually exist and are out there, and collectively they can impact change by connecting through social media. So I would say it depends on how you use it. It's definitely a distraction. It takes far too much time from us because it constantly
Mm.
stimulates us and informs us. There's so much happening in the world, but it also creates a grid, almost like a grid of neurons that fire and inform each other in real time. There's no such thing as, oh, Charlie Kirk gets whatever murdered, shot, imploded, whatever happened to this man, and people on the other end of the world not reacting and already analyzing and plotting and what has happened, and 24 hours later we have a collective answer to a certain event. Or Ibrahim Traore,
Mm.
while these people are still on the way trying to compromise people in his camp, somebody already spilled the tea on the way. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
social media
yeah.
allows for that. Or Candace Owens, suddenly she's threatened, people are already, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. So it created a global community that
Sure.
allows for global consciousness, collective consciousness to shift. And I feel this has benefited the state of mind when it comes to racism, when it comes to feminism, when it comes to sexism, when it comes to misogyny, patriarchy, gender-based violence. These are all topics that isolated wouldn't have impacted change in this capacity.
I love that. Final question, Malins. We have, what is your hot take? Now, what's your hot take? When I do in America, everyone knows what I'm talking about. When I do in Europe, people are like, "What is a hot take?" A hot take, obviously, is something that you don't, even if people don't agree with, you don't care. This you will argue on this forever. This is what you stand on, and you stand on business. What is your hot take? I'll let you cook.
The womb is the most intelligent place on earth.
I 100% agree. I don't think you even have to explain any further. I 100% agree. The womb is the most intelligent place, man, and that's where man comes from. Nobody can say anything to that. 100%. Malins, what would you like your legacy to be?
My legacy will be that of instilling balance where there is imbalance, and in this lifetime contributing to justice, peace, and equality for all.
Amazing. Malins, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. And
Likewise.
best wishes. I don't celebrate Christmas, but best wishes for the new year, and more high spirituality, more blessings from the Most High. And let's increase. Let's work together. Let's increase more love in the world.
Exactly.
Take care.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Merry
Take care.
Christmas. Bye.
You're watching
Debated!
Follow
With Jordan Kensington.
new episodes every week. Keep it locked.
Yes, welcome back to Debated Live. Jordan Kensington, the building. What you had there was Malins. Thank you so much, Malins, for coming to the show. What an amazing show that was. She talked about a lot of things, and that very inspiring, very inspiring. If you're not inspired, then what more do you need? We have our next guest coming in, and before I even introduce her, I'm going to play a clip that first led me to her in the first place. And it's something that my team brought to me and said, check this out. Let's go.
Children learn how to treat their fathers by watching their mothers do it. And ladies, I know you might want to tap out right now, but if you stick around, I'm going to say something that's going to help you. Children are emotional sponges. And even when you are not sitting them down to teach them a lesson, they are learning about love, partnership, and respect in the way that they are nurtured by you. If they are constantly watching their mother dismiss their father, talk down to him, or use a certain tone or body language towards him, that becomes the blueprint. This is not a one-sided game. I understand that this can go both ways, right? But that's not the issue we're dealing with today. Let's stay on topic. For most women, respect is not automatic. It is rooted in a deep level of admiration. Most women need to feel that their man is better than them in some way in order to deeply respect him. I'm not talking about the general respect we give to all people. I'm talking about the level of respect that you give to the man in your life who you're saying is going to lead you, protect you, and who you're saying you're going to honor. And when I say better, I don't mean it in the sense that he's superior or controlling. I simply mean that he's admirable. He's emotionally disciplined, competent, decisive, protective, and grounded. Psychology backs this up. Studies show that respect within relationships stems from the perceived level of competence, integrity, and strength of character. Studies have even found that when women perceive that their partners are lacking discipline, direction, or ambition, contempt and dissatisfaction begin to rise sharply. And according to John Gottman, those are two of the strongest indicators for relationship breakdown. It is extremely difficult to respect a man that you do not look up to in at least one area. And when there is no respect, even in the moments when you may try to hide it, it shows to the people around you, to your partner, and to your children, if you have them. By default, your children will see who you listen to, who you honor, who you roll your eyes at. They pick up on it all. That's why it matters who you choose. You can't just go for who chooses you. As women, sometimes we give away our autonomy too quickly for fear of the timelines that we've placed on ourselves, and we end up settling for men we don't respect. Admiration is something that is naturally occurring. You shouldn't really have to work too hard at respecting your man. You can't raise respectful children in a home where disrespect is the daily language. You cannot teach honor if it's not present in your own partnership. And everyone gets hurt in situations like that. You, your partner, and eventually your children. So ladies, use your free will for something good today. So much can be avoided simply through good decision making.
Yes. That's so strong. And that was the voice of Amanda. Amanda Batter, welcome to the show. Welcome to Debated. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm fine, thank you. So as I was saying, we here on Debated, we're always in the know. My team will always bring me people that are saying things that are relevant, things that, the world needs to hear. Amanda, when you posted this, what inspired you to post this in terms of relationships between men and women? And it's a big thing. When you speak to a lot of divorce lawyers, the first thing they always say is, when the divorce lawyer will say, or therapists, they'll say when they speak to the man, the first thing the man says is, "I didn't feel respected, and that's why this didn't work." Yeah. How did you come? Because hearing it from a female's perspective is quite different, because that's what men always say in those kind of situations. So hearing on a female perspective, how did you come yourself to that sort of conclusion on your side?
So as a therapist, I do a lot of reflecting on my own. I think that therapists must do their own work. And I was reflecting on my own upbringing and the way I think I maybe had just got off the phone with my dad. And I was, I noticed how sharp I was with him, and kind of just the tone that I had with him. And I just started thinking about the way I grew up and the way I watched my mom interact with my dad. And they're still married to this day, right? Love each other dearly. But I would not want to operate in that same manner that I watched my parents operate together. And I see how much it has influenced the way that me and my siblings speak and interact with my dad. And I'm not crazy. So I know there are reasons for everything. And we can see that the influence of the mother and the father is so strong when it comes to the relationships that your adult children and younger children will have with you.
No, I completely agree, because it's very clear that in you are living in a household that there is a disrespect on your father. It becomes a whole thing where the kids become disrespectful, and the person mirrors back what you're giving them. Because obviously, as you said, your parents are still married today, but there's been an impact there. You are lucky on your side. Some other parents, they might have divorced, and they're looking at this thing and saying to themselves, but there was love there. I mean, the whole reason why no one's forced to get married, maybe in certain cultures, but most in 2025, no one is like forcing themselves to get married. But you fell in love. There was something that happened, and then at some stage, there was a breakdown of communication. And I always say, is it down to you as a therapist? You can answer this. Is this down to men and women have different love languages? With women, your love language, it could be more. I mean, I'm not going to speak to women. I'm going to speak to men. Well, let's speak to men, and you can speak. With men, your love language could be respect. Because they feel valued when they're respected. But maybe the woman's love language to a man could be, making sure they're nourished, making sure they're looked after, making sure but the most important thing for them is respect. And it goes down to the animalistic level. If you go to the jungle, a lion, or there's a hierarchy everywhere, and that respect is so important. Once that's lost, it becomes there's an anger. There's so much a void going on. Do you think is love languages, or do you think is wired in the DNA of both species, that this is how they behave towards each other?
I think that there is a proper order to relationships and a proper order to the way things should function. Do we always operate in that way? No. But I do believe that naturally men want to interact with women in a certain way, and naturally women want to interact with men a certain way. I think that the trials of this life, the society, there are a number of factors as to why there's a relational breakdown between man and woman at times. But I think those are the things that get between a man and his wife, to where you are now at this space where there's a lack of respect, there's a lack of love, there's, again, I'll go back to the tone, because I just noticed that there's a certain tone that you speak to someone in, especially a man who you admire or love, when you respect him. And there's a tone that you speak to him when you don't, or when you're in a mood. And so I think that that's a great indicator as to if you are truly respecting him or not. But to your point, yes, love language can have a part of that. And I always like to explain it as like an emotional bank account. We all have an emotional bank account. Men have an emotional bank account in the same way women have one. And there are little things that we can do daily to make deposits into that bank account. So maybe for one man, his wife showing up for him in a certain way, let's say making sure his dinner is cooked when he gets home from work, that's depositing something into his emotional bank account. And maybe he understands that to be respect. For another man, maybe that's not too high on his list of things, right? So it's really about knowing the person you're with. That's why in that video, I said it comes down to women choosing, like really being intentional about the choice that you're making. Because once you make the choice, you're now saying, I am signing up to respect you. I am signing up to submit to you. I'm signing up to do my life with you. I am signing up for you and all of you. So make an informed decision. And I can speak to that because I was married at 22. I think a week or so before I turned 23, I got married. I did not make the right decision. And so I love this because, relational trauma and things like that, because I was in this field, of course, before that, but I love that I'm able to see it from both sides of the spectrum now. I can speak to that prior to marriage and, being able to give, guidance and advice in that space, but I can also speak to what it's like to be in a marriage where you know, maybe this person is not a horrible person, right? But you did not make a good choice for your life. And being able to own that decision and understand how much that impacts your ability to respect someone, regardless of if they're meeting your needs or not, regardless of if you feel like they're the man they're supposed to be, this is who you signed up to be with. So it really comes back to you. And as women, sometimes we'll say things like, you know, well, you're not being a man, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. You signed up for this man. So I hate when people kind of get the wrong idea, even behind that one video that I posted, because a lot of women kind of saw it as an attack, when really I'm saying, no, you get to have autonomy over your relationships. You get to, you know, choose a man and not just go with the man who's choosing you. You get to do your homework before you choose to say, I'm submitting my life to this person. Marriage is so much more than a wedding.
I love that. Marriage is so much more than a wedding. How important is it for those early conversations to be as honest as possible? Because I feel like a lot of things could be avoided, and you can talk from experience because you've been married and you have been divorced because you didn't make the right decision. How is important is those conversations whereby both parties are not just in the love cloud, they actually explain what they want. Because it is like you're gonna live with this person for the rest of your life. So you're gonna build a family together, you're gonna grow together. How important is it to say, this is who I am, this is what I want, and how important is the person to say the same thing and you both to honor that honesty on day one? Because I think sometimes what happens, and you could talk as a therapist as well, that people put their best foot forward on day one, right? Instead of actually being as honest as possible and saying, like, look, you know what, this is how I am, this is who I am, this is what my ambitions are, this is how I am, do you accept it? They put their best foot forward, and everyone, you know, one side behaves like, hey, you know what, our romance is going to be amazing, this is, you know, you're going to be having sex 24/7, not that it's the only thing, but it's going to be this, it's going to be that. And then in the reality, and this is a lot of marriages, in the reality, those change when you're actually in the relationship, whereby certain things, you know, go left and go right, etc., etc. How important is it to be honest, like on those early conversations? And are people honest in those conversations?
Yeah, I think it's extremely important to be honest. Of course, we all know that at the foundation, but even more than it's important to be honest, it's important to accept what people are telling you. And not only accept what people are telling you, accept what people are showing you, and accept what people are saying they are willing to change and showing you they are willing to change. I was talking to one of my clients and sharing with her that she was going through like some relational dissatisfaction in her current relationship, but she really loves this man. She really wants to be with him. And I'm like, you know, hey, you're either going to do the work with him or you're going to do the work with someone else. I always tell people, everyone's going to come with something. Everyone is walking around with something that they're carrying along.
That's
Maybe
true.
some trauma, some type of, you know, just an ick about them, whatever. Everyone has that thing. But you get to choose the thing that you want to sign up for. So it always goes back to choice. So if someone is being honest and saying, hey, this is what I want out of a wife, out of a husband, this is how I want my person to show up, this is, you know, what I'm ambitious about, these are the things that I'm not into. And if they're being honest with you and they're also showing you, because everyone's not always going to say it. Everyone's not always going to say it, but you have to also be observant. So as you mentioned, not being caught up in a love cloud, coming back down to ground zero, keeping people around you who can keep you level-headed and kind of bounce ideas off of and say, girl, you might need to think about that. Hey man, did you ask her that question? Having people in your community who are not dating this person with you, but has a set of eyes who can give you wisdom and guide you in the direction that you need to go as you're making decisions for your life. Because sometimes what we do is we make a decision for the moment instead of making a decision for our destiny and for our purpose and for what we actually want for our life.
No, I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you. Is it that you know, it's what we've fed by television and film that has obscured. Like we was having a conversation earlier on with Malins, and I was talking about programming, you know, education and programming. Her point was, programming has to change. Like the way people are being programmed has to change. The educational system has made you believe something else that it isn't. Romance has been something else that it isn't. You don't understand what you're getting into, and that education needs to be done, and from a very young point where you understand that this is how. If your example is your parents, and your parents' example is their parents, and if you go back and back and back, and nobody has actually been taught how to behave in a relationship, how to make things successful. Is it that there was a lack of love, or is it that we just don't know?
Yeah, I think it can be both. But to go back to the first thing you said about programming, I think social media is doing us a horrible disservice right now. I think that there is an influx of content that speaks a lot about what women should expect, what women should want, what women, so much content like that, who men should be, how men should show up, what men should pay for. Like there's just so much content out there like that I think for a lot of people it's skewing their perspective, and it's putting them in position where they may have the opportunity to be with a really great person, but because of all of the messaging that they're receiving, they can't decide on, should I go forward with it? Should I just keep staying on the fence? Should I go forth with it? So they're playing this back and forth game, or completely cutting people off who actually could be good for them, but because it doesn't meet what social media standards said, then, I'm not going to do it. For example, we all see this debate. I don't know if you have, but I've seen it so many times. I'm tired of it, about men paying the bills and all the bills, and there's just this why do we even have to talk about that online? I don't know. But that's just a very hot debated topic online, and men paying for everything. And so then you have women having this expectation that the moment they meet a man, the first thing he's supposed to do is splurge his money on them, and they're saying, oh, I want to have a long-term quality healthy marriage or long-term relationship, but you're approaching it in a way as if you're looking for a trick, or you're looking for a man who's just, how are you going about this activity? And I think it's just because of social media. Now, the second question you asked about, is it love or is it a lack of knowledge? And I think it's both, because sometimes people have remained married out of convenience. When we think about our grandparents and their parents, and just thinking generations back, so many of those relationships lasted 50 years, married for 40 years. That doesn't mean that they were happy, and many of them were not. Many of them were abused. Many of them were unfaithful. Many of them were not healthy at all, but they remained together out of convenience and because it was expected of them. I was just watching Fences the other day. I'm not sure if you've seen that movie with Denzel Washington and Viola Davis. And he had a baby on her and then expected her to raise the baby for him because the other woman died.
Crazy.
And so
That's
it's
mad.
just, but that's the culture that our, many of our families lived through. And then we expect that now we're just going to be raised up and we're going to be able to go off and have a healthy relationship and a healthy marriage just by osmosis. No, we got to do the work. We got to unlearn those unhealthy patterns. We got to unlearn what mom and dad and grandma and grandpa taught us. Maybe not even by, again, sitting us down and teaching us those things, but we have to unlearn what we observed.
No, I love that. I love that. Don't forget, guys, this is the Debated Live show. We are live online on different platforms. We have several platforms on there that we're on there, wherever you're watching from. Don't forget, coming after Amanda, we have Enoch, a young president, shall I say, from Africa, coming after. We had some legends today. Amanda Bata is a relational trauma therapist. And relationships is how you relate to the ship. If you don't relate to the ship properly, it ain't going to sail the direction you want it to sail. So it's so important to learn how to relate to that ship properly. You have friendships, you have relationships, you have situationships. All these ships that we have to relate to it properly. Amanda, there was a viral meme years ago. It was not a meme, it was a viral story. I don't know if that story is accurate or not, whether it was a real story or not, but this actually went viral. And the story was, a woman married this man in Brazil, And everything she will ask the woman to do, she will just be disrespectful. She won't do it. Like anything, like, do nothing. The woman didn't want to do anything. She was just so disrespectful to him. But she divorced him and went and married another man, right? And literally everything that man asked her to do, she was doing it for the other man, right? So the man was like, this makes no sense, right? Because like everything you were arguing about not wanting to do, not wanting to be submissive, you're doing it here, right? So what's the difference? Like what was the difference between that? You as an expert in trauma, what do you think was the difference between those two scenarios?
So that's interesting. And it could have been a number of things. But what came to my mind is how sometimes in a relationship, you can treat someone horribly, and it has everything to do about what you're going through in your life. So something that can shift between this relationship now and your next relationship, maybe you healed. Maybe you realized through that divorce or through that breakup that you were a hot mess and that you needed to get your life together. And so, of course, that person is now going to be a recipient of the healed version of you, whereas the person before got all of the junk. And that's why it's so important for people to do their work and really, take your time in your singleness to unpack the things that are impacting your life and your relationships and your heart and your ability to trust and have healthy relationships and respect and love and care, to unpack those things so that the person you're with doesn't have to be suffocated underneath the pressure of your traumas. But yeah, something that could have happened between that is simply maybe the person went off and got healed, or maybe they were out to get you the whole time. They hated you and they just wanted to. There is so many things that could happen.
It can one or the other.
Yes.
Now, talking about healing, Amanda, you do healing seminars, healing workshops, and healing conferences. I remember there was a time back in the day, me and a lady called Sherry Silver, we went to launch a healing center called the Love Clinic, like a healing clinic place. Your healing conferences, what's the inspiration behind that? And how do people get involved? And is it just in America? Are you going to be taking it across different countries as well? What was the start and what you're doing with that as well?
Yeah, I always tell people everything I've created, like those spaces for women, it was first something that I needed. So I recognized that in my own deficits and in the things that I was struggling with, I would have benefited from having a space like that. And so what I did was create it for other women so that they can have that space like that and not be in a space of regret or need when they're going through. And so that's the heart behind any type of event or retreat that I've created through this time. And yes, I do them in America. Our next retreat, though, is going to be in Dominican Republic. And so I'm really excited about that. And I cannot wait. It's going to be a time of rest and reconnecting with ourselves and with our sisters. So I'm really excited.
I love that. And if people watching want to come to the one in Dominican Republic, where do they go to? How do they get involved?
Yes, so you can go to IamBeyondBrokenness.com or simply on Instagram at It's Amanda Justine.
Amanda Justine, brilliant. So you're on the Debated Show, Amanda, and we always have the red box. This is the red box here. The red box, we never know what card's going to come out of the red box. It's never planned in advance. So I'm gonna pick up the first client. So
all right.
The card is, this is random. What is a conspiracy theory that you know 100% to be true? Again, what is a conspiracy theory that you know 100% to be true? Amanda, what's your take?
Okay, so a conspiracy theory that I'm not gonna say I 100% know is true, but I really do think there's something weird about it. People talk about like them having weather machines and things like that, changing the weather. And I think that is highly likely just because today it's like almost 80 degrees. It's December. And the other day it was 30 degrees. So I'm trying to understand what's going on. So that is something I believe.
I think at this point, there's so much evidence as regards to that. There's no, I don't think it's a conspiracy at this point. I completely agree with you on that one. That's complete facts. So you don't have to, you don't have to cower your brand. I completely agree with that one. So the next one is, what is your hot take? So what's your hot take? Yeah.
What is my hot take? My hot take is that women would be happier in their relationships if they weren't so desperate.
Explain.
Yeah, if you weren't so desperate to be married, so desperate to settle down, you would give yourself an opportunity to really get to know people, and you would then weed out the men who do not fit what you desire. You would really know yourself, and you wouldn't be so desperate to just stop at the first person who thinks you're pretty. And I think that has gotten women into some unhealthy relationships, have gotten women into some just, serious situations that maybe they could have otherwise avoided had they been less desperate to be picked.
And do you think that's coupled with also doing a deep learning about themselves and doing
Absolutely.
that healing before even? Absolutely. Because I feel like you either do that deep learning and healing before you get into a relationship, or when you're in a relationship, you either want to start and actually start doing that healing and deep learning, because without that, it's just going to be the same situation happening over and over again, right?
I agree. Absolutely. Taking that time to get to know yourself, because from that place of knowing yourself, that's the only way you can communicate to someone what you need, what you desire, what you want from them, what you want out of this life. But then what happens is a lot of women don't do that before they get married. They find the man who said that they were pretty, they get into the relationship, they get married, and then they start to do the healing work, and they realize, wait, what is this? And
what's going on?
Yeah, and I see it all the time. Like in my practice, I see it all the time. So I would just encourage women to stop being so desperate.
No, I love that. So Amanda, your surname is Bata. So
Bata,
where is Bata from?
Where is it Nigerian. From? I'm Igbo.
Oh, okay. You're Nigerian.
Yes.
Bata also there is in Cameroon. There is Bata as well in Cameroon, and Nigeria is close to Cameroon, so you might have some roots in Cameroon. You don't even know.
Yes, I did. Yep, I took an ancestry test, but yeah, my father is Nigerian, my mother is American.
Oh, fantastic. Amanda, it was lovely to have you on the show. Best wishes for the new year, and we pray that the Most High blesses you with all the success, all the happiness and peace that passes all understanding. So as we go into 2026, yeah.
Thank you.
Amazing. Take care, Amanda. Take care.
Bye.
Amazing. Right, that was Amanda live here on the Debater Live show. Next up, we have Akot Emmanuel coming on the show. Before we go to Akot, I wanted to see a little bit of a clip as regards to Akot and the things this young man, a young boy, has been doing worldwide. I call him the president, Mr. President himself. Let's go.
I wanna live my life with good vibes. I wanna live my life with good vibes. Today is a new day.
So what's your program in the vacation, Mr. President?
Yes, I am going to visit some friends like Honorable Oscar Sudi, to see where Raila Odinga was buried. Because also Raila Odinga was a very good Pan-African.
Oh.
Yes, and also visit my friend Hamid.
You also Hamid in the Seychelles?
Yes.
Okay. So
Honorable Oscar Suda, if I kindly ask, may I see where this Honorable Raila Odinga was buried? Because I used to like that man when he's still alive, but now he's no more. So I must see where he was buried.
Okay.
Yes. There are very many Pan-Africans, but they are not commonly mentioned. And their message was greatly in songs. Like some of them are Peter Tosh, Lucky Dube, and Bob Marley. Like Lucky Dube once said in his song, that different colors, one people.
Exactly.
Which is a core fact today. Yeah, that one, it can lead us.
Okay. They are also Pan-Africans. I thought that they were just artists, mere artists.
No, their message was even greater than the music.
Oh, Understand. Thank you for remembering them.
Oh, thank you.
You said
You're welcome.
Comrade Lucky Dube.
Yeah, Comrade Lucky Dube plus Bob Marley and Peter Tosh.
Oh, I didn't know about Peter Tosh.
You can learn, yeah. I wanna earn, no regrets, no more crashing and burn. I will rise to the top, cause oh God bless you. No my God, no my God, no my God, no my God. Oh God bless, oh God bless, oh God bless. No my God, no my God, no my God, no my God. Let me tell you something. I can see something green back, blessing a blessing. I can see plenty money, I can see testimony, I can see money, green back, green back, green back. It's green back, it's green back, green back, green back, it's green back, it's green back, it's green back. Ooh yeah, baby, I wanna live my life with good vibes. Ooh yeah, good vibes. I wanna live my life with good vibes.
Amen.
Put this.
Check this out.
That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Akot Emmanuel, aka Mr. President of the show. Akot, how you doing?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Akot, welcome on the show. The first time I heard about you, Akot, was seeing all your videos online, all the advice you're giving, and your love for Africa. And can you tell the people how old you are and how you became so connected to Africa, and how you love Africa so much at your age?
I'm Akot Emmanuel, known as Mr. President 009 in Rise the Voice Africa. And I'm 11 years old. Next year, I'm aging 12 years old. How I got to know about Pan-Africanism is through reading books. When I was in primary 5, I began reading The African Nationalism. Yeah, it's a book. It was full of Nkrumah. It was full of those of Patrice Lumumba, a lot of them. So for me, what made me think like I wanted to become a president is that all of these men, they wanted African unity, but they could not make it happen. So for me, I said, if they die without making it happen, why won't I take it forward? Yes.
I love that. I love that so much. I was speaking to Malins earlier on, and Malins was talking about, the generation that's coming, and you are the next generation. Do you find out there's a lot of people like you in your country that feel the same? A lot of young people that feel the same, because it's very impressive. I remember when I was 11 years old, I didn't know who Patrice Lumumba. It's unbelievable that you know all the legends. Do you find that your young people in your country are getting to know these people, to know these legends?
Like I didn't get you well. May you repeat your question?
Do you find that a lot of young people where you're from are now kind of understanding the power of Africa and they're getting to learn about legends?
Yeah, it's taught in schools. There are actually books about nationalism, about African nationalism. Many children get to read it, most especially in primary 7. They teach them about Africanism. Yeah, and about the continent also, the continent Africa.
Now you're called Mr. President. Do you see yourself becoming a president in the future? If you are, I can see it. I can see it.
Yeah, actually, I see myself becoming a leader dedicated to his people, serving his people at great will. Like, I want to promote equality in Africa. Yes, and
I
I
love
want
that.
to develop my country and my people, the people of Africa.
I love that. And why do you think a lot of presidents in Africa, some presidents are corrupt? Why do you think they are?
Why do I think a lot of presidents are corrupt? Actually, I don't think a lot of presidents are corrupt. Like, it's the way they are ruling. Yeah, they rule, but for me, I don't know anything about a leader's corruption. What I know is, if I am in their place, I can do better for the people.
I love that. I love that. You're already a president, Emmanuel. I can see that already. And tell the people about the charities that you guys do. You're involved in a lot of charities now. You're currently in Seychelles. So tell people about some of the charities that you do.
Some of
the charities that you do. I think you have a speaker that's on there that's giving some echo.
What Oh, like the foundation, like actually
yes.
in Rise the Voice Africa, it's a program whereby we get different vulnerable children and we take them to school, discover their talents, and use their talents to help them. Like, we have a motto saying every child is a champion. So
wow, every child is a champion. Wow.
Yeah. So we are fundraising here in Seychelles to help kids. Yeah, in Rise the Voice Africa Foundation. As I said before, I'm 009. It means there are more children who have come before me. The reason why I'm called 009 is because I was the 9th child, and there was 001, 002, 003, 004. And even behind me, we are actually 26 kids. Yeah.
Wow. Mr. President, what do you think the young people, the message the young people in Africa need to learn from going to 2026?
What I think the young people need to learn, they need to learn about Pan-Africanism, nationalism, and patriotism. They need to learn how to develop their country. They need to learn how to love their country, how to support their continent, Africa. Yes. Yeah, and they should also stop brain drain. They should also study, like to promote. How do you call the word?
Which one?
To promote this. How do you call? Yeah, to promote education. Yeah, in the continent. We want our people here in Africa to have a developed mind, so that they can make their own thing, like technology.
I love that. I love that. I was speaking to Malent earlier on, who went viral for a speech about Africa, and she was talking about education, and she was like, education is important, but it's the right kind of education. And the right kind of education is education about your spirituality, yourself, your leaders that came before you, and Africa in itself. Because sometimes you find in Africa, the only education you find is the West. Do you think Africans need to learn more about African history?
Like, do I think about?
Do you think Africans need to learn more about African history?
What I know is that Africans should focus more on job making than job seeking. If you can make your own job, it means you can make something of your own. We can make our own market within us, so that we can sell to ourselves. Yeah, not seeking market from the outside the West. Yeah, we should depend on ourselves. Africa should be a self-reliant continent. A continent which
Mr.
is
President,
on itself.
Mr. President,
Yes?
you're very strong. You're very strong. You're very strong. You know what? I will not be surprised. I will not be surprised when you lead the country in the future. I won't be surprised. Look, do you pray and do you have a good relationship with the Most High? What's your relationship with God and the Most High as a young person?
Me? Yeah, I pray to God. I'm actually a Muslim by religion. Yes.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And that means more to you. That's very important to you, right? Definitely. And you have a mentor as well that is always there helping you out. Isaac. Tell us a little bit about what Isaac has done for you and up till now.
Actually, Teacher Isaac is my mentor. He takes care of us, the 26 kids. Yeah, at school.
I love that. I love that.
One of the founders of the foundation, Raise the Voice Africa.
Raise the Voice Africa. I love that. So, Akkad Emmanuel, as we go into 2026, yeah, what is your message for Africa for 2026?
Yeah, I'm saying that young people should engage in this one. How do you call it? In leadership, so that we can bring up ideas to develop Africa.
I love that. I love that. Akkad, you are amazing, and I wish God bless you to become even greater. And we will be supporting your causes as well because we're loving what you're doing. We will promote after the show. We'll put your links on in below as well, so that people can get in touch. Have an amazing New Year, and much love for myself and to all of you guys in Seychelles there. Take care, my brother.
Okay.
Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
You're watching
United.
Follow. New episodes every week. Keep it locked.
Right. Special thanks to all the guests that came on the show today. What an amazing show it was. I want to give a shout out to Malins. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Absolute facts, loads of inspiring stuff there. And Amanda as well. Amanda Batta, thank you for coming on the show as well. Absolutely an amazing show on there. And the president himself, Enoch Emmanuel. Thank you for being on the show. Absolute gems there. As an 11-year-old going to 12, honestly, I'm so in awe of the young people in Africa. As an 11-year-old talking about what Africa needs to be doing, it's like we need to be creating jobs in Africa. We need to be creating opportunities. We need to be creating intelligence. Look, I'm telling you, when you have all of that in terms of a mix, it's a good place to be. So guys, best wishes, have fun, and I wish you guys an amazing start to 2026. Take care, look after yourselves, each other. Yahweh bless you. Take care, and goodbye, guys. Take care. Let's go.